Hello everyone, it's me, Clayton. I just got back from watching The Boys, an Amazon series based on a controversial comic series by Garth Ennis. Now, when it comes to the past decade, we've gotten loads of stories about superheroes, all the way from Marvel and DC and every other studio in between. What The Boys seeks to do is essentially not only subvert typical superhero tropes, but it also seeks to poke holes at the superhero worship that our culture has had for several years, showing that the people that we hold on pedestals aren't always the best people deep down. This has been done in many comic series beforehand, but but I don't think I've ever seen a series that's done it as brutally or with as much entertainment value as this one. But let's get to the story, shall we? The story follows Huey Campbell, played by Jack Quaid, whose girlfriend was accidentally killed by a superhero named A-Train, played by Jesse Usher. When he goes through PTSD involving this, he ends up joining a group called The Boys, which is a group of criminals who have their own issues with superheroes and who are led by Billy Butcher, a charismatic yet practically insane man, played by Carl Urban. There's also a subplot in the series about Erin Moriarty, who plays Starlight, who becomes one of the members of the Seven, the big group of superheroes in this universe that's clearly supposed to be their version of the Justice League. Only to find out that the Seven are not the heroes that she thought she'd ultimately want to be. Now, The Boys really excels well when it's going for superhero satire and when it goes for its world of superheroes and how they would fit into it. Now, since these are heroes who are filled with debauchery and who do terrible things and still get protected by the media conglomerate Vought, it's allowed to pay a lot of social commentary on how we view celebrities and war heroes and people like that, showing that while some of them can be legitimate heroes, others are clearly just either sellouts or who do horrible things that the media covers up, or in Homelander's case, played by Anthony Starr, and Homelander's case ends up being not just Superman done the exact opposite way, but also might be the biggest villain of the whole series. Now, a lot of this wouldn't work well if the actors couldn't carry these characters, but thankfully they do. Carl Urban especially plays Billy Butcher in a way that makes him as anti of an anti-hero as possible. Not only does he cuss up a storm with several amusing bits of dialogue, but he also happens to be just good enough to the point where he is just barely on the side of good, and even then he tightropes it. This makes him really interesting because you get the sense that he isn't mentally well throughout any of his scenes, and you practically think at any moment he could just snap and go completely bonkers. Jack Quaid then does a great job as the other side of it. He's the typical dweeb at first, but he handles his role well alongside Butcher. And the same can be said for Butcher's friends, Frenchie, and Mother's Milk, who have an amusing relationship with each other and who honestly make up two of the funnier characters of the series. And then there's the female, played by Karen Fukuhara, who also played Katana in Suicide Squad. Even for a character who never says a single word, she still elicits sympathy and still does a lot of great body language that lets you know that she's gone through a lot and that she has a story that I hope gets fleshed out more in Season 2. Moriarty as Starlight does seem like the weakest overall of the characters, not in terms of power, but more in terms of her storyline, because her acting is good. She clearly puts her all into it, but it's just we've seen her story before, and there's not a lot new that's added to it. I could say the same for other actors like Jesse Usher as A-Train, and a few others that don't come to mind right now. But even for characters who don't seem like they get the lion's share of the development, like Maeve or Black Noir or others, you can tell they're going to be more important in the second season. The action scenes, when they are there, are very flashy. They clearly make a good use of the budget, and even with long scenes of dialogue, they're never boring. There's just enough action to keep things exciting, and not so much that it overtakes the story. But I do think that there could have been a few more fights, especially given that it's an 8-hour long series, and some scenes did feel like they went on a little bit too long. Though it does have one bonkers ending with one hell of a twist. So The Boys overall is a very solid series. I think is definitely a good subversion of what you're used to from Marvel and DC. That's why I'm going to give The Boys an 8.5 out of 10. See you next time.